Another blitz. Hurts takes it right up the gut. Touchdown Eagles. Here's the deep ball. Got hit as he let it go. Oh, Devontae Smith. What a catch. From 54 for the win. On the way. It is there. And the Eagles remain unbeaten.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Flyin Style podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Mitchell, back with my one and only co-host, Steven Maslij.
What's up, Matthew? How you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon, evening time?
Enjoying the week per usual when you come back with a dub. Great week from the guys. We had a 28-23 win over the Jaguars on Sunday. A little bit of shakiness here and there. Got a little scary at the end of the game, but the Eagles pulled it out with a huge Nakobe Dean interception to seal the game. Tell me what your initial thoughts on this game were, because it did have some ups and downs despite the fact that it really felt like we dominated this performance.
It's a game that we should have blown them out of the water. Going up 22-0 with 9 minutes left in the third was just – we dominated. We dominated the first half. We dominated on every facet of the ball. We dominated on defense. We looked really good. We're going to get into some of the calls that Sirianni was making with the 2 points and whatnot and go into our opinions on that. But regardless, we were just dominating this team. We've shown that we're way better than these bottom. I don't mean to be rude, but bottom feeders of the league. And it's been really nice. We're 6-2 right now, going into at Dallas, and it was a great game until midway through the third, which was just very aggravating to just watch them slowly attempt to come back and slowly come and it's then it comes down to the end of the game for no reason at all. But we got the win. Great team win. We're gonna get into the Sirianni stuff very quickly, but I just hate how we have to talk about that. We should have, and it sounds horrible because every NFL team is obviously very talented and whatnot, but we should have murdered this team 40-12. It's not. It was just brutal that it had to come down to the end of Nakobe getting that off Dearness Johnson's chest. And I'm very happy with the win personally, but they can never make it easy. They made it easy the last 2 weeks, but sometimes it's just these are just wins that you should just blow over a team, especially at home.
Yeah, I get it. I told you my little conspiracy theory after the game on Sunday that they just didn't want Doug Peterson getting fired at Philadelphia. They wanted to make it interesting, to make it seem like it was close, give him his credit and keep him in there. But all jokes aside, it was definitely an interesting game. Obviously, we probably should have done better. We left 9 points off the board with the calls that Nick Sirianni made, and we'll get into that in a second. But honestly, with the Eagles becoming a running football team as of late, you're going to have long extended drives that move quickly and take out big chunks of the clock. And I feel like that's part of the reason that we're not seeing them score up in the 40 points, 50 points, or anything like that. They're not an air attack team that just gets a quick score. They're a slow grinding team that runs down the field, tires you out, and bullies you to the goal line. And we obviously saw that with Saquon Barkley getting 27 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. Had an incredible game, obviously had the play of the year with his backwards hurdle. That was something I've never seen in football in my life, and I think every other fan would agree that was one of the coolest plays anyone's ever seen. I can't even imagine how you begin to think of something like that while you're mid-run. But
did you see his interview?
Yeah, he said he was going for a double spin, and then he kind of just let his body take over and just went for it.
Yeah, he kind of was just I thought he was going kind of low, so I kind of just jumped, and I didn't realize I got that high.
It's not a reasonable explanation. I'm not. That doesn't make me. It's just insanity. It's such a blessing to have a player like Saquon Barkley that can just will these kinds of plays into existence. It's pretty crazy, but I really wasn't upset with the way that the game played out. Obviously, when you go up 22-0, I wasn't really afraid of the fact that Sirianni kept going for 2, because it's against a team that, like we said, we should have won against. And I felt that the first time going for it when it was 16-0 and he tried to go for 2, I felt like that one was a little unnecessary. I think you should have just kicked the extra point there. But when you get to the 22-0, the difference between 22 and 23 is nothing. The difference between 22 and 24 is. So that one made sense.
But also the go for the 16 to 17, we did get that offsides penalty called. So we thought the tush push would just, if you get at the one, I understand. I don't get it because it makes it's still technically a 2-possession game if they get both the 2-point conversions, but I kind of get because we've been so efficient with the tush push, like to go for it, especially if you get it at the one after they jumped off sides. I understand his thought process, sort of, but not. I mean, it doesn't make 18 and 17 like it's still they're not able to reach it for 3 possessions.
I get it, but I did hear a parallel on sports radio this week, which I thought was incredibly accurate, to be honest. And it's going back to probably everybody's favorite play call in Eagles history, and that's the Philly special in the Super Bowl. Now, that's a play on 4th down going into halftime where you're down 7 points, right? The logical play is to kick a field goal. But instead, they decided to, play it out, do something special, and get that play to work. And it worked. But if that play didn't work, it goes down as one of the worst calls in Super Bowl history rather than one of the best calls in Super Bowl history. And that's just the way that making a ballsy play works. You have to have the balls to go out there and make a play like that. And Eagles fans have always been appreciative of being able to go do that and being the team that always goes for it and has the nerve to, push the other team's buttons and try to, get under their skin. But obviously, with the loss of Kelsey, the tush push has seen a little bit of a decline. It's not as automatic as it was before. And people are getting mad because we're not converting on it. But I'm still all for going for it, especially in a game where you're winning 22-0 against a team that's bad. There's no better time to try that kind of thing than to just try it there. And I'm sure that this game gave them an idea of how far they can push that limit moving forward. So I'm not mad at it at all, to be honest. I think people have been overreacting to it a lot. And one more point before I stop talking, I'm being a chatterbox here, is that I think that Nick Sirianni has been getting far, far too much hate from not only the national media, but especially the local fans and the Eagles fans around Philadelphia. Because, listen, Sirianni gets no credit for when they do good. It's always the players. The players have so much talent. They're so good on offense. They're so good on defense, yada, yada. Nick Sirianni gets no credit for when they do well, despite the fact that he schemes, prepares, and gets the guys ready to lay out that game plan that works for them. When he does bad, when the Eagles do bad, even if it's the player's fault, even if Jalen Hurts throws 3 interceptions and the offense looks stalled and, the defense, you got CJ Gardner-Johnson in the back letting up 2 touchdowns, something like that. Sirianni's the one that gets the blame because of his inefficiency and inability to call the right plays. So for a guy like Sirianni, he gets nothing but hate regardless. He gets no credit for when he does things well. And the bottom line is that Sirianni, in his tenure as an Eagles coach, is one of the winningest coaches in NFL history in the stretch of games that he has been the Eagles coach. You can't ask for better than that. And, another thing that Eagles fans are neglecting to think about is the fact that we've had a different offensive and defensive system every year since Jalen Hurts has gotten into the league. You really want to go and fire Sirianni right now and switch everything that's working again? You've got Kellen Moore's offense working for you. You've got Vic Fangio's defense really starting to catch on. And these guys are starting to get accustomed to these coaches, and they're really appreciating their system and starting to feel a flow into it. If you pull in a new head coach, that head coach gets to bring in new guys. And now you've got 3 new coaches again and 3 new systems. Is Sirianni's, insecurities or his little sideline blurbs that he does, whatever, like his sideline antics, is that really worth changing systems again when this system is clearly comfortable for the guys?
So the only counter argument to that, and I kind of feel the same way you do, and I don't need to go into that right now, but the counter argument is that the 10-1 collapse last year sits in the people's minds for a while. And then you go into the first 4 weeks of this season. Obviously, since the bye, we've been fantastic, and you can't slander him other than him yelling at fans on the sideline and bringing his kid. He can do all that stuff. But that collapse and that little antic stuff just really sits in people's heads for eternity. It just carried on over to the season. And the only way he's able to fix it is going to be in the playoffs. Like, that's the only way he's ever going to get respect from everyone else. I completely understand what you're saying. I completely agree with you. He's unfireable unless we don't make the playoffs or get murdered in the first round. I mean, it's absurd that he's not getting his flowers from people, but that is the reason. Like, it's just other people just can't let other
I get it. Go. I get it, but like, I get that it's sitting in the fans' minds. But guess who it's not sitting in? The players that are buying into him and buying into his system, and talk about the fact that he gets the guys rallied up and they enjoy him as a coach and they appreciate what he brings to the table. So if the players like and enjoy their coach and the systems are working and finding rhythm, then why would we fire a coach with an extraordinary winning record for the sake of the fans and that they get annoyed by him? Like, come on. Like, how far are we going to take this? That Sirianni just needs to get fired, that we need a new guy, that he's just so annoying that we can't handle it. Like, we would really rather watch a whole new system again next year than just deal with the antics.
It's the ungratefulness of how good this team has been and is. Honestly, there's some teams out there, like I have a Saints friend.
Truthfully, it's the fact that people are getting ungrateful with the fact that we've been blessed to watch winning teams for a lot of years now. And they want to
win, but competitive for like championship level caliber teams. Like, this isn't just like, like playoffs and we'll see what happens. Like this is like Super Bowl or bust. Like, for the last 4 years, or 3 years.
And we've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 10 years.
Yeah, we are beyond blessed, and people are just
it's tough listening to, because obviously there's parts of it that you understand. Obviously, people were annoyed with the way Sirianni was acting, especially when the team wasn't winning games. Winning cures all. We know this. But he has to get credit for the fact that things are turning around. Like, this is not just Kellen Moore's offense. Everybody's like, oh, Kellen Moore finally is taking control of the offense. No, he's not. We've been watching this. We've been watching the same kinds of plays for years. And yes, it feels like you're starting to see more of Kellen Moore's system implemented in there. And it's not just Sirianni's system that we're watching anymore. And I appreciate that they're working together and figuring that out. But man, this dude has won a lot of games for us. And I don't know why we think that we'll go ahead and move on from him for his antics and find somebody that's going to be, better.
Have you seen the national media standpoint on this?
I have not, no.
You're going to hate it. Basically, Dan Orlowski said this. Colin Cowherd said something along these lines. Bunch of national media guys have said along this premise I'm going to go on, is that the Eagles are a very talented and a Super Bowl winning team, except the fact that their coach is holding them back. I want to see what you have to hear about that, because that's what they've been saying. They said this coach is holding us back. And I'm going to let you comment first, but that's basically what Dan Orlowski's like. This coach is the one holding this team back from greatness. This guy isn't a Super Bowl winning type guy. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, it's not like there's no basis behind that. I mean, I do think that going back to the collapse of last year, and we've talked about many times in this podcast, was due to coaching. And I do think that going into the first 4 games of this year, we were still seeing signs of that. But I also think that we've seen them turn a leaf, and the coaches have begun to work together to find a scheme that's comfortable for everybody. And you're seeing Jalen Hurts thrive in it. You're seeing Saquon Barkley thrive in it. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, when they're both playing, thrive in it. The offensive line is doing well despite injuries and despite the fact that they're getting banged up down there. It's working. Same with the defensive side of the ball. We saw them start off slow. We saw them start to adjust to Fangio's defense. And suddenly we're starting to see the old Josh Sweat. We're seeing the same Jalen Carter. We're seeing, Nolan Smith start to pop out. We're starting to see even hints of Bryce Huff. The guys are starting to get to the quarterback. And the 2 guys thriving by far the most from this system is Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond.
Yeah.
And we're seeing guys thrive. Cooper DeJean, he's getting used all over the field the way he's supposed to. Quinyon Mitchell is just a lockdown Quinyanamo Bay over there, and the safeties are doing their jobs, and everything's. I just think that it would be silly, despite the outcome of this season, to try to change it all up again going into next year. I think that there's moments that Sirianni makes mistakes for sure. And I think there's times that we'll all sit there on the couch yelling that we want a different play call or a different scheme or whatnot. But it's working for the guys and they're winning games. And people need to, get over all the nitpicking and just accept the fact that the NFL is the NFL. And even bad teams are good. And sometimes good teams will struggle against those bad teams. And things happen, but winning games is winning games. And despite the fact that it was 28-23 last week, at no point was I worried that we were going to lose that game. Even going down the field when they were running down the field in that last drive, I wasn't worried. I really wasn't. And
the only reason they were in that game, though, and I will say this, I don't like blaming the refs. Saquon was down.
Of course. And that's something we didn't mention yet, is the fact that they did literally hand them a touchdown, and their top of the line ref, Gene Sarator, said on live air that should not have been a fumble. I don't know what happened to them. I thought that they used to go call in New York and get their opinion on it. I don't know if that changed, but they handed them a touchdown.
I mean, it changed they got the first score right before that. They kick off. Our first play is Saquon, and then they recovered the fumble. And I literally turned to everyone. I go, he's down. They're calling it back. It's fine. Because at that point, it's 22-8, and we're still very much ahead. And They get that touchdown. The 2 point, that changed the whole trajectory of the game. I mean, obviously calls go both ways. We'll get some, I don't think we'll ever get that call. I don't think anyone should ever get that call. He's down.
Exactly.
His elbow hits the ground and makes the ball come out.
Exactly. And then lastly, before we move on to the Cowboys game, I do want to bring up the trade deadline. Obviously, a surprisingly quiet deadline from Howie Roseman, who is usually very active in the trade deadline. I've heard a lot of people try to make the point, an argument that Howie didn't make a move because he doesn't think that they're in a position to win a Super Bowl or that he doesn't have faith in them, which I think is complete bullcrap. But I want to hear what you have to say about the trade deadline and if there was anyone you wanted or anything you expected differently.
I mean, it's super unreasonable to ask for someone at this point. Our defense is still developing. We still we added CJ. I know Bryce Huff hasn't panned out how we wanted to, but that's a free agent type guy. We added two guys that are playing at all caliber level in Cooper and Quinyon. It's on the offensive side of the ball. All of our backup tackles are playing fantastic. I mean, you got to sign another wide receiver 3 because we got Dotson already, and he made a tremendous catch, but down the field. I know he hasn't been a great receiver, but we have 2,000 yards receiver. What do you want to change? The fact that people go, they look at Lattimore getting signed to Washington, and I go, well, they didn't have corners. We have corners. Okay. Then Zadarius Smith gets signed to the Lions. Oh, they lost their best pass rusher. No crap, they signed somebody. We're still young and developing.
We're only getting better every week. There's no reason to try to replace these guys yet.
What do you want? I don't other than getting Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, where you have to give up a plethora of our future. And it doesn't, and you have to pay the guy still. I don't know what anybody could possibly want from this trade deadline from Howie.
I'll ask you this real quick, just as a hypothetical. Going into next year, I believe that Micah Parsons is a free agent. Would you try to go after Micah Parsons, or would you be too scared of the fact that Cowboys players have a terrible history of being able to play in Philadelphia?
No, I won't. I mean, if it's even a glimpse of a possibility, I want Micah Parsons on this team.
Because I feel like everyone in the back of their minds feels like Micah Parsons kind of is always jealous of the Eagles and wants to be over here. Not to mention it's technically his hometown team, and there's always rumors that he wants to come over here, yada yada. And obviously in a position where we're kind of it's somewhat in need of a pass rusher, and him going into free agency, and they gave all that money to Dak and CD. I don't really think he's going to end up back there, especially with all the chaos he's caused in the podcast this year.
I mean, he's one of the best DNs, outside linebackers in the game of football itself. Regardless, I would love him. I don't know how the salary cap will work out for all that. I don't know if we could,
I know we've got about 30 million of salary cap going into the offseason right now without any moves being made or changed.
But he's going to be one of the most expensive players ever in the history of football. Like if he gets for a long-term contract.
Yeah, I mean he'll get probably a record type deal. I mean I would imagine he would get somewhere around 180 million for 3 or 4 years.
Like that's ridiculous. That's what I mean. Like if he gets even 150 for 3, like that's still 50 million. We would have to move a lot of things around. It's kind of like, I mean, I'm related just to other Philly sports. It's kind of like the Soto thing, but obviously baseball salary cap's a little different and whatnot.
Yeah, it just comes down to whether the owners willing to pony up their money or not.
Yeah, I mean, Laurie has been obviously willing to pony up his money and give bonuses and make sure how he's able to manage the salary cap any way he can. But regardless, I mean, that's a no-brainer, Matt. You want him to, I mean,
I was just curious. I know a lot of people get worried. I mean, realistically, there is a terrible, terrible track record of Cowboys players coming to the Eagles. They've literally never panned out. Now, when you look at a Micah Parsons, I feel like there's what could possibly go wrong with that. But I don't know, man. It feels cursed to bring Cowboys players over to the Eagles. It just doesn't work.
T.O. tried his hardest here. So
T.O. did work out, despite the fact that him and Donovan just didn't like each other. But
and that's on Donovan. So yeah, DeMarco Murray we didn't run the ball under center. Thank you, Chip Kelly, for that again. It's no.
He would have worked if we ran north-south rather than east-west.
And I mean, we're running the ball under center. We didn't even talk about that with Jalen, which is amazing.
I know. I mean, we briefly mentioned it last week. It's one of the nicest things I've ever seen. Not to mention that I don't remember if it was this week or last week. I think it was last week. Devontae Smith's touchdown coming across the middle where he had the big run for catch. I think that was not this past week, the week before.
The week before, yeah. I mean, look at that catch he made.
That was on an under center play action.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
And that's why you're supposed to run those kinds of plays. It's not a coincidence.
We didn't even talk about his catch this week.
I know. I mean, we did see some crazy highlight plays from the Eagles this week, despite a couple, key mistakes. They made some big highlight plays this week, and Devontae Smith's catch is top 3 all season, if not number 1.
I mean, I
feel like it's hard to top that Garrett Wilson catch, but it was damn close.
No, it definitely was. And then, I mean, we're going into this week, talk about Micah Parsons. We're going into Dallas this week. We haven't won since 2017. Dak will not be playing. We have a lot of people on the injury report. How do you feel going into this week? And do you know the entire injury report? Because there's still a lot of question marks out there.
No, unfortunately, the injury report's been really weird this week. They're not giving a lot of light on anything. Obviously, you saw Jalen sit out of practice yesterday, and then sorry. Oh, apologies. But then you look at Devontae Smith's notion. My goodness. Something in my throat. All right, I should be good now. Anyway, Devontae Smith's notion is that he was available for media today, but doesn't say anything about whether he was limited in practice or practice at all. So I don't know that. A.J. Brown was a limited participant, which is usually a good sign, but doesn't give you a full notice of whether he's going to play or not. And I know there's some other players that are still iffy on the injury report, but those are the big key guys. Either way, to me, despite if Jalen doesn't play, which obviously isn't happening, they just sat him for rest. I don't want to get anybody worried or anything, but I'm not worried about this game at all, personally. I know that we haven't won in Dallas in a while, and Dallas is our rival, and they're going to give us a tough game. I shouldn't sit here and act like we're just going to blow them out. But they're a bad team this year, plain and simple. Their defense has been awful. Their offense has not been able to click on any cylinders. And now you're throwing a backup quarterback into that mix. To me, this feels no different than playing the Giants this year. You heard me.
Damn.
You heard me.
Does it matter at all that they have played tougher opponents than us?
No.
It doesn't matter that they were at San Fran. They played Baltimore they played Detroit. I mean,
of course it matters a little.
I still hate Dallas, and I will forever hate Dallas. I hope you're right.
To me, they're just not like it's not so much just about the fact they're playing good teams. It's part of the eye test of watching them. Like they look in disarray. They're missing Parsons, which I know might
be back this week.
I get it.
He's been gone for the 4 weeks. Like that, they got blown out.
But it's their pass rush isn't their problem. It's their secondary. And on top of that, I just don't see them. I don't see anyone, for that matter, stopping Saquon Barkley right now. And I know that we're going to try to semi-limit his touches because he's on pace for a record-setting amount of touches this season. But regardless, this team has just not been impressive this year. And obviously, this is a divisional game. I'm not just going to sit here and act like they're a terrible team, yada, yada. I love crap talking the Cowboys, but a divisional game can go any way at any time. I mean, even in the game where we had our backup quarterback, I think not last year, but the year before, when we had Gardner Minshew playing against them, fighting for a playoff spot. I don't remember if that was last year or the year before.
I remember
it was the year before because we had Mariota last year.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But even in that game, we scored 40 points with our backup quarterback. So there's no reason that they can't do the same thing. Divisional game is divisional game. It's going to be close.
They still have one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, I know
he's also questionable, but probably
exactly. There's so many question marks in this.
It's a piled up injury report.
And this is Thursday that we're talking about this. Like we don't know yet.
Exactly. So I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. Obviously, this is still a big hurdle for us, considering that we haven't been able to beat Dallas in a long time, and Dallas does usually tend to be our biggest rival. It's not going to be some pushover game. I really shouldn't compare them to the Giants. I'm just trying to give you a gauge on the fact that I feel like they're just not a very well-knitted team this year. They're all over the place. They're in disarray. You've got players going on podcasts talking about their top 10 quarterbacks and not mentioning theirs. Yeah, Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones per usual all year. They're just in disarray there, and it reminds me of what we saw from the Eagles last year in their collapse. So, yes, I don't feel like they have a particularly great chance against a rolling Eagles team that's finding their rhythm right now.
I love it too. I love that they're in disarray and that everything's going wrong. Dak is on the sideline saying that we suck, mouthing it.
Not to mention that Dak might actually go on the IR, so this might be an extended period that Cooper Rush is going to be their quarterback.
And then, they don't even try.
To be honest with you, I hope that he loses to us and then plays out of his mind for a few weeks so that there's a QB controversy between their $60 million a year quarterback and Cooper Rush. It would make me so happy.
That would be great also if you knocked down at the Commanders too. But regardless, how do you see this game going, and what's your final score prediction?
Well, I mean, truthfully, I have a hard time not being a broken record right now. As long as you keep the game plan moving the way that it has been, I don't see us losing anytime soon. And at least until we reach some of the tougher games in Washington and the Ravens and whatnot. So to me, if you keep running the ball the way that you're running the ball, using that under center play action and getting the ball to guys over the middle, I think you're still going to keep seeing points put on the board. And I'm thinking you're going to see like a 28-17 game this week.
Yeah, I mean,
just off of the fact that they're a divisional game, and I expect them to score some points against us. But
that's crazy.
Especially in garbage time.
That's crazy you said that because I was going 31-17, and I'm going to stick to it. But regardless of how this is a divisional game and everything, they just don't match up. And I believe that AJ will at least play. I'm not positive about Schmitty personally.
Hamstring's a little more concerning. It can just linger for a while.
But Cooper Rush, as long as we don't get too full of ourselves, I mean, we got a Thursday night game versus Washington coming up. I just hope that's not like a look ahead spot where I doubt it, because it's any other spot. This is like a kind of like a trap, like a sandwich type game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like Thursday night divisional leader at the current moment. but you're at Dallas. You haven't won there since 2017.
I don't think there's ever a time that an Eagles team will go play Dallas, no matter how bad they are, and look towards the next week.
No,
because even if they go in there, I mean, the rivalries are rivalries, and the Cowboys-Eagles is one of the most storied in all of football. And no matter what, they could, like I said, they could be the worst team in the league. The Eagles will be preparing on how they can score as many points as they possibly can on them, not looking at next week.
No, I completely agree, and I'm very excited. I hope we crap stomp them for terms of language.
I'd love to see a blowout, man. That would make the year all worth it.
I mean, just the last couple weeks of just watching us kill everybody and them getting demolished has been a nice Sunday. But if we could just have it all in one, just
exactly,
that'd be awesome.
So with that all being said, thank you guys for tuning into this episode. We're really excited to come back to you next week, hopefully with a win. It'll be nice to talk about two divisional rivals week to week. So make sure you stay tuned, come back. And if you like this video, liked our opinions, please like the video and subscribe. We appreciate everybody that tunes in and checks in on us and checks in on our reviews and updates. So keep coming back. We appreciate you guys. And we'll be back again next week with another preview and review of the games. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and we will see you guys later. Go Birds.
Go Birds.